At the class reunion, my ex-wife noticed the engagement ring on my hand and asked playfully, "Is your fiancé prettier than I am?" Everyone egged me on. I twirled the ring on my finger and replied, "She is indeed a bit prettier." My ex-wife's face darkened. As the event wrapped up, she blocked my way, saying, "You chased after me like a simp for 7 years, and now you're suddenly engaged." What about me? How did you feel about me back then? I chuckled softly. Let's just say I was blind. Chapter 1. At the class reunion, drinks flowed one after another. Before I could have my fill, Elizabeth placed her hand over my glass and said with concern, "You don't have a strong stomach, don't overdo it." The air grew still for a moment. Perhaps she forgot we'd been broken up for a long time. Chapter 2. Elizabeth and I, you could say, had a fateful entanglement. During the freshman orientation, I fell in love with her at first sight. I began to pursue her passionately. Bringing her breakfast, making her ginger tea during her period, ordering roses on her birthday. I did everything she asked, always following her lead. Everyone knew Elizabeth had a dedicated, obedient simp. As time went by, she got used to my presence. In our 3rd year, I confessed to her for the 865th time. "Elizabeth, be my girlfriend," I said, holding a bouquet. Her expression was as unreadable as ever. I couldn't tell what she was thinking. Silly, she took the flowers from me but neither agreed nor declined. Yet, given Elizabeth's ambiguous attitude, everyone assumed we were dating. As we neared graduation, trouble hit Elizabeth's family. Her father, exhausted from overworking, had crashed and caused a fatal accident, facing a 300,000 yuan compensation fee. Her mother was bedridden with illness and had been for years. Her family had lost its main support and was burdened with debt. At the time, I had just started my own business. My company had recently gone public and was doing well. I had made some money. I brought a bank card and went to Elizabeth's house. The doorway was defaced with red paint scrawling "A life for a life." People passing by would spit on the ground. I knocked on the door and found it unlocked. When I stepped inside, I saw Elizabeth sitting in the kitchen staring into space. I walked over, handed her the bank card, and hugged her tightly. "Don't worry, I'm here for you." Elizabeth looked at me, a trace of emotion finally surfacing in her vacant gaze. Her eyes filled with tears, brimming, about to fall. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. "Because I like you." Elizabeth froze. After a long moment, she said, "Jack, let's be together." Chapter 3. After graduating from college, Elizabeth and I moved in together. I continued running my business. And with my help, Elizabeth also started her own company which was close to going public. We were both making progress in life. One evening, with the lights off, Elizabeth suddenly asked, "Jack, do you like kids?" "Huh? Kids?" I paused for a moment and asked, "What about you? Do you like them?" "No. They're too noisy." "Oh, then we won't," but, Elizabeth interrupted, "I want to have a child of ours." After that, we tried many times, but there was no news. Elizabeth went to the hospital for a checkup. And they diagnosed her with polycystic ovaries infertility. During that time, she was in low spirits. To help her out of the gloom, I proposed marriage. She accepted with joy. That night, she cried for a long time. She said, "Jack, thank you for loving someone like me." Chapter 4. On our anniversary, we went on a date. Halfway through the meal, she felt nauseous and started vomiting. A visit to the hospital confirmed that she was 2 months pregnant. Elizabeth burst into happy tears and hugged me, saying, "Jack, we're having a baby. Our baby." I smiled and held her close. I had 1,000 things to say, but not a single word came out. To focus on her pregnancy, Elizabeth wanted to temporarily step back from her company, but there was no one fully capable of handling it. While she was torn, Samuel came into the picture. He was a year below Elizabeth in college, recently graduated, but highly capable. Elizabeth appointed Samuel as her acting proxy. He shuttled between the company and our home, reporting to Elizabeth daily, discussing matters which Samuel would then relay to the company's leadership. Every time I came home from work, Elizabeth would pull me aside to chat about the day, often mentioning Samuel. "He's dependable and hardworking, truly impressive. Jack, he's a talent. Once I'm back at the company after having the baby, maybe you could consider recruiting him to our team." "Silly," I tapped her forehead, "this is one of your top people. Are you really just handing him over?" "Yes. Samuel is sharp and would save you a lot of hassle. If you're less stressed, I'll feel more at ease. Chapter 5. When Elizabeth and I were most in love, we wanted to be with each other every day. But soon after, things began to change. I'm not sure when it started, but our conversations shifted from planning our future together to discussing how remarkable Samuel was. Samuel really is smart. Samuel's quite thoughtful too. He even remembered my menstrual cycle and prepared ginger tea in advance. Though he doesn't know there's no cycle during pregnancy. Today Samuel came over to report work and made fried rice for me. Turns out he's pretty good in the kitchen. Samuel brought me a flower on his way over today, said it suited me. Samuel asked me out over the weekend to thank me for mentoring him. The other day, when you were away on business, Samuel stayed late to discuss work. I let him stay over. Funny enough, he talks in his sleep, such a surprising contrast. Samuel's birthday is coming up. I want to get him a gift to show my appreciation for all his hard work recently. Samuel, everything was about Samuel. Elizabeth, could you stop talking about Samuel? I asked. She paused. Sorry, you're busy at the company, and I really shouldn't burden you with so much chatter. I guess I'm talking too much. No, she didn't understand. It wasn't about her talking too much. Elizabeth, change your acting proxy. I don't like Samuel, I said bluntly. Why? He's so capable. There's no one else like him. What exactly is your issue with him? Besides, this is my company and my proxy. How is it your concern? How is it my concern? I licked my lips bitterly. Then how was it Samuel's concern? She had begun to shut me out in favor of Samuel. Seeing me remain silent, Elizabeth placed a hand on her belly and gave a bitter smile. Is it because I'm pregnant and we can't be close, so you've lost interest? Chapter 6. I couldn't understand why Elizabeth would think that. I worked harder than ever, took on more challenges, wasn't it all for her and our future child's happiness? I felt anger and a sense of injustice. Can you get it together? I'm the baby's father. I'm your husband. Samuel is just an outsider, I shouted at her. Elizabeth seemed taken aback. She froze for a moment, then retreated to the bedroom, slamming the door and locking it with a quick click. I stood there, staring at the 2 movie tickets left on the table. It felt like somewhere inside me, something also shattered with a click. Elizabeth and I were in a cold war that lasted nearly a week. She didn't initiate any conversations, even avoided sharing a meal with me. At first, I did the same, but a few days in, I softened and tried to talk to her. She ignored me and threw a jab. Weren't you the one who found me annoying? The day before my business trip, she was still sulking. As I stood by the door, I said, I'm off. Call me if you need anything. Almost reflexively, she responded, take care on the road. Realizing what she'd said, she turned away, casually reaching for the TV remote. Adding, I was talking to the air. Okay, I nodded. I stocked the fridge with fruits and honey. Don't do any chores while I'm gone. I'll have the housekeeper come by. I'll be back in a few days. Chapter 7. Despite the fight with Elizabeth, I was full of hope when I returned from my business trip. I wondered what she might be doing now. Would she be lying in bed reading a novel, experimenting with various desserts in the kitchen? Or perhaps lounging on the sofa telling stories to our unborn child? I imagined many possibilities, but I never expected to see her laughing and teasing with Samuel. I don't know what Samuel said, but it made Elizabeth laugh heartily. She gently patted his shoulder, saying, stop it, while her eyes sparkled with joy. Samuel just looked at her silently, then reached out and tucked a loose strand of her hair behind her ear. I stood in the doorway, my face dark. When Elizabeth noticed me, her smile faded, and she returned to the sulky expression she had before I left. You're back, she said curtly. Yes, I'm back. Samuel invited me to dinner. I'll be going out later, so you can just make yourself something to eat. If you don't feel like cooking, I can bring back some leftovers for you. That won't be necessary, I replied, mustering the last of my strength. Before leaving, Samuel gave me a nod and then walked out with Elizabeth. Left alone in the empty house, I felt an overwhelming frustration. What did I do wrong? What went wrong? We were fine before this, we were truly in love. Could love really just fade away? I felt so tired. Maybe it was time to let go. I sighed and made myself a cup of instant noodles. I thought, it was time for us to have a serious talk. Chapter 8. When Elizabeth returned, I handed her a glass of honey water. Elizabeth, I have something to say. I'm tired. Let's talk tomorrow. I think we need to clear this up as soon as possible. It won't take much time. Elizabeth set down the glass impatiently. Can't you be a little considerate? I walked a lot today, I'm exhausted. Elizabeth, Jack, she interrupted, can you stop being so unreasonable? I don't know what's gotten into you lately, whether it's too much pressure or you just don't love me anymore, but you're always snapping at me, even ignoring me sometimes. And now, out of nowhere, you want to talk. What do you want to talk about? Are you planning to discuss divorce? Or maybe custody of the baby? Jack, don't you see that our life has fallen apart? I stared at Elizabeth in disbelief. Elizabeth, what do you even think of our marriage now? She didn't respond to my question, only said, Jack, we both need some space. Over the next few days, our relationship grew even colder. One day over dinner, Elizabeth casually told me, Samuel confessed his feelings to me. My chopsticks froze midair, and the food fell onto the table. What? What did you say to him? I don't know. She shook her head. My mind is a mess right now. Jack, I'm afraid rejecting him outright would hurt him. But I can't let go of you and the baby. Her voice trailed off until it faded into silence. Looking at Elizabeth's downcast expression, I couldn't hold back my frustration any longer. Chapter 9. Elizabeth, do you even want this marriage anymore? I set my chopsticks down forcefully on the table. Elizabeth was stunned. After a moment, she stood up, slamming her hands on the table. Why are you yelling out of nowhere? You mention Samuel's name constantly. Now he's confessed to you, and you're worried rejecting him might hurt his feelings. Who the hell is your husband? Jack, are you out of your mind? Yes, he confessed to me, but what does that have to do with me? I hired him as my proxy, it's all work-related. So I mentioned his name a few times, what's the big deal? Do you really need to overthink this? You go on dates with him, have meals with him, watch movies, fool around on the sofa. You indulge in time and time again. Elizabeth, you're lying through your teeth. You call this work? Tell me, does this look like work to you? Jack, Elizabeth shouted my name. You don't trust me. How am I supposed to trust you? We were at an impasse, and the door clicked open. Samuel stood in the doorway, looking between us. What's going on? I sneered, pointing at him. You gave him a spare key too, Elizabeth, wow. Just wow. Elizabeth ran her hand through her hair, exasperated. Jack, I don't get it. Back in college, you chased after me tirelessly, even going so far as to buy breakfast for my flings, and deliver running shoes for 3 years without complaint. And now, you're blowing up over a key. It doesn't mean anything, yet you're making it out to be a big deal. I don't understand, do you have to pick a fight to feel satisfied? Elizabeth, search your heart and tell me, is this really just about a key? Elizabeth fell silent. At this point, Samuel standing by spoke up. Jack, please don't blame Elizabeth. It's all my fault. I'm the one who likes her, and I'm the one who pursued her. I'm sorry, it's my fault. Chapter 10. Samuel apologized to me 3 times, even bowing, before running out the door. Samuel. Elizabeth tried to stop him, chasing him to the door. I called out to her, if you step out of that door today, we'll never go back to how things were. Jack, don't make me choose, it's either me and our child, or Samuel, I said, pressing her again. Her tears spilled over. She cried with the same heart-wrenching sadness as when I found her in her family's kitchen during senior year. Elizabeth touched her belly and said to me, I'm sorry, Jack. Elizabeth still laughed. In the end, I was alone in the empty house. Utterly alone. Abandoned and solitary. After a week of wallowing, I sold the place we had shared. Samuel accompanied Elizabeth to the Civil Affairs Bureau, and we officially divorced. I never contacted Elizabeth after that, only hearing through old classmates that she followed Samuel's advice, sold her company shares, and flew abroad with him. And the only child I had with Elizabeth was lost forever, urged to be abandoned under a cold scalpel at Samuel's behest. Chapter 11. As I came back to my senses, Elizabeth seemed to realize that she had overstepped, remaining silent. Oh, just once in a while, the class monitor chimed in, pulling everyone back to a lighter mood. He laughed, tonight's a reunion, so let's drink as much as we want. Come on, let's fill up those glasses. Xing also joined in the teasing, saying, our class beauty is still just as kind-hearted and beautiful, huh? Elizabeth gave a helpless smile as she looked at her old classmates. You all just love flattering me, don't you? I might start to believe it. Being humble as always. Everyone knows you're the renowned beauty, Elizabeth. Exactly. Back then, you had Jack wrapped around your finger. He even said he'd never marry anyone but you. Cameron, tipsy, added his 2 cents, and the atmosphere that had just lightened plummeted back to an icy silence. The class monitor tooted and patted Cameron's shoulder, signaling him to be quiet. I downed a glass of wine, brushing it off. It's all in the past. Elizabeth hesitated for a moment, then gave a bitter smile and echoed, yes, all in the past. Perhaps to ease the tension, Elizabeth casually tried to make small talk with me. Hey, Jack, that plain ring on your hand is pretty nice, but it seems like it's on the wrong finger, no? The class monitor coughed. But Elizabeth didn't seem to notice, and pointed to her right middle finger, smiling as she continued. The left hand has a special meaning, it should go on the right hand. You're still as careless as ever. I looked down, touched the ring, and smiled slightly. It's not on the wrong finger. I'm engaged. Chapter 12. Elizabeth stared at me in disbelief. Her eyes, usually so calm, were filled with mixed emotions. The class monitor clapped his hands and clicked his tongue at me. Jack, that's not fair. Elizabeth might have been abroad for a while, but you could have at least shared the good news with us. We're old friends, and you didn't even. Seriously, that's not cool, man. Share the news? After she publicly announced her relationship with Samuel, he said keeping my contact information didn't feel safe. Just like that, with a single dismissive not safe, she blocked me and cut off all contact. Even if I had wanted to share the news, how could I? Both families were busy with the engagement banquet and such, and then I got caught up in work. I completely forgot. That's on me. I'll drink to that, I said with a smile. With that, I poured myself a drink and downed it in one go. Elizabeth snapped out of her thoughts and forced a smile. But it was too strained, looking worse than if she'd just cried. Jack, that really was sudden. I haven't even met your fiancée. Cameron, still tipsy, piped up, not fiancée, soon you'll have to call her wife. Yeah, I haven't met your fiancée, Elizabeth said, clutching her glass and downing its contents. What's she like? What kind of person is she? What's her personality like? How tall is she? Is she local? Then she added, is she prettier than me? Chapter 13. Seeing Elizabeth's playful question, the class monitor figured she had moved on, and didn't avoid the topic of my fiancé anymore. You know, Sophia's not bad looking herself. Yeah, tall, with an oval face, gentle as water. I heard she's a designer too, quite accomplished. Oh, Jack should bring her along one day so we can meet her. Elizabeth forced a smile that looked painfully unnatural. She's really that pretty? She is indeed a bit prettier than you, I replied, twirling the ring on my finger with a smile. Well, lucky you, Elizabeth muttered. Yeah. And you, how are things with Samuel? Any plans to get married? I asked casually. Yeah, Elizabeth, it's about time to settle down and find some peace, the class monitor sighed. Elizabeth fidgeted with her fingers. I'm still thinking about it. As the drinks kept coming and evening fell, the gathering wound down, and everyone left one by one. When I went to the parking lot to call for a designated driver, Elizabeth blocked my way. How have these past few years been for you? She asked. Pretty good. Sometimes I dream of the days we used to have. Let the past stay in the past. Jack, do you really have to be so cold toward me? I couldn't quite understand Elizabeth's intentions here. She had a boyfriend, and I had a fiancé. Alone, in the evening, shouldn't we be keeping our distance? Was this really being cold? Are you really going to spend the rest of your life with someone else? Elizabeth asked when I didn't respond. She grabbed my arm, her eyes red with a near-desperate look, and demanded, Jack, you chased after me for 7 years, and now you're just getting married. What about me? What am I to you? I shook her hand off and replied with a faint smile, consider it my blindness in the past. Chapter 14. Elizabeth's body shook, her lips quivering as she tried to speak, but no words came out. I didn't give her another look. Just then, my driver arrived, and I got into the car and left. The next evening, when I returned home, I found Elizabeth there. You're back, Sophia walked over, helping me take off my coat. I ran into Elizabeth on my way home. She mentioned she was an old friend of yours, so I invited her over. I looked at Elizabeth, and she looked back at me, smiling with some vague purpose. Sophia put on an apron and headed to the kitchen. I'll whip up a few dishes so you two can catch up. Only Elizabeth and I remained in the living room. I pulled Elizabeth aside to the foyer and lowered my voice. What exactly are you trying to do? Elizabeth smiled. What's the matter? Am I, as your ex-wife, someone you can't introduce? Elizabeth. Why the yelling, Jack? You haven't changed. Elizabeth shrugged off my grip and returned to the sofa. We were happy once, weren't we? Oh, by the way, does Sophia know you were married before? I clenched my fists. Elizabeth, wasn't it your choice to give up our child, to abandon your career for Samuel? Isn't that life with him fulfilling enough for you? Why come back to mess with me? Do I owe you something from a past life? Elizabeth didn't respond. Her gaze drifted toward the kitchen, where Sophia had just entered the living room. I just remembered there's some cake in the fridge from before, Sophia said as she pulled out the desserts, handing one to Elizabeth and one to me. Elizabeth, try it. I buy from this place often, and it's pretty good. Thank you, Sophia, Elizabeth replied with a smile. Jack, no sneaking bites, Sophia teased, glancing at me with a smile. Your stomach isn't strong, the cake's a bit chilled. Wait a bit before eating. Chapter 15. At the dinner table, Sophia and Elizabeth chatted for a long time. Enough chatting, it's getting late. Elizabeth should probably head home, wouldn't want her boyfriend to worry, right? I said, glancing at Elizabeth, subtly hinting that it was time for her to leave. Elizabeth, however, had no intention of leaving. She held Sophia's hand. It's fine. I'm currently single, so it doesn't matter if I go home a bit later. Sophia and I just hit it off, and I'd love to keep chatting. Sophia, aren't you planning on finding a boyfriend? Or are you a bit of a skeptic about marriage? No, Elizabeth shook her head. I've been in relationships before. One of them ended recently. And before that, well, I was married, but we divorced. She shot me a challenging look. Ah, I see. Well, maybe you just haven't met the right person, Sophia patted Elizabeth's shoulder comfortingly. Sophia, you're lucky to have found the right person. Jack is wonderful. Yes, Jack is really good to me. I love him very much. You two really do look like a loving couple. Actually, we sometimes fight over small things. But that's just life, right? You just have to give in a little, show more love and understanding, and there's nothing you can't overcome. Really? My ex-husband and I had a fight once, and he abandoned me. How could he? Terrible, right? And now he's close to getting married again, leaving me to think about him every day, keeping me up at night. Elizabeth, I couldn't listen to this anymore and stood up, interrupting her. Sophia looked at me, puzzled. What's wrong? Elizabeth should be heading home, I said, adding, it's not safe for a woman to walk alone at night. True, Sophia nodded. Jack, why don't you walk Elizabeth out? Chapter 16. At the bottom of the apartment complex, Elizabeth looked at me with determination. Jack, I'm better suited to you than Sophia. Get lost. Elizabeth paused, moving closer to me. You'll regret pushing me away. Do you think you're some kind of prize everyone wants? Elizabeth, stop flattering yourself, I pushed her away. You're unhappy with your life, so now you want to disrupt mine. Samuel left you, so you're here to stir up trouble between me and Sophia? How can you think that of me? Elizabeth frowned, clutching the hem of my shirt with a pleading tone. Jack, I came back because I can't let you go. I miss you. Can't you hold me? Let's start over, please. I'll be a perfect wife, 1,000 times better than Sophia. Jack, please. You're all I have left, don't leave me. Her words became a blur. All I felt was exhaustion, even from a simple conversation with her. Even breathing the same air, it was suffocating. I pulled my shirt away from her grasp and asked, Elizabeth, do you have no self-respect? Elizabeth stared at me, stunned. After a moment, she snapped, yelling, yes, I have no self-respect. And what about you? Are you any better than I am? Jack, you're about to marry Sophia, and you haven't even told her you've been divorced. Jack, we're just as bad as each other. We really are a match made in heaven. I was left speechless. It was true, I hadn't told Sophia about my past with Elizabeth because I thought it wasn't worth mentioning, let alone reminiscing about. I had locked those memories away in my heart, they were the most painful part of my life. I even tried to numb myself, to forget those memories, to forget Elizabeth. But I knew I couldn't keep going like this. I needed to tell Sophia everything. Without another word to Elizabeth, I walked her to the apartment complex's gate and returned home. Chapter 17. That night, I lay in bed with Sophia sleeping beside me. In the dark room, there was only the sound of our breathing. Sophia, are you still awake? Yes. I need to tell you something. What is it? Sophia turned, resting her head against my chest. I'd been married before. I also had a child. And where is the child now? It was terminated before it was born. He must have been in pain, Sophia murmured. We lay there in a brief silence, holding each other closely. I continued, my ex-wife is Elizabeth. Sophia didn't say anything. After a few seconds, she replied, I had a feeling. You? She turned around and held me close. Jack, let the past stay in the past. We all need to look forward. What does it matter what happened before? I'm happy now, and I think you are too. Isn't that enough? Sophia. I hugged her tightly. At that moment, words were unnecessary as we held each other in silent embrace. Sophia's fingers traced softly along my face. Jack, I actually have something to tell you too. Go ahead. I'm pregnant. At that moment, time seemed to stand still. I'm going to be a father? Yes, you're going to be a father. Sophia smiled. Mr. Chi, are you ready to welcome this little life? Overjoyed, I held Sophia close and kissed her hair. This is wonderful, Sophia. We're having a baby. Chapter 18. Over the weekend, Sophia planned to visit her parents, saying she wanted to chat with them and share the pregnancy news. I felt uneasy, wanting to go with her, but she shook her head. Aren't you working overtime this weekend? Don't worry, I'll be fine on my own. I don't want to be a burden. After Sophia left, I went to the office to handle some business, getting so busy that I lost track of time. By the time I was ready to head home, it was already 10 o'clock at night. I packed my things, but suddenly heard footsteps. At this hour, who else could still be here? I looked up and found Elizabeth standing there. You've been working till now and haven't eaten, right? I brought you some fried noodles from the old man's stall by our university. You used to like it a lot. Elizabeth opened the takeout container and placed it in front of me. No need. Sophia's waiting for me at home. I put on my suit jacket, ready to leave. Don't lie to me, I saw her leave this afternoon. You're stalking her, I demanded. So what? Feeling guilty, Elizabeth chuckled, then pleaded, Jack, just one bite, please. Annoyed, I pulled out some cash and shoved it into her hand. Consider it bought. Now, please leave. Why? Why do you keep pushing me away? Elizabeth grabbed my hand, her nails digging into my skin. Do you really like Sophia that much? Who does she think she is? Jack, we have 7 years of history. Can you really just let that go? Let Sophia go, and let's be together. I don't care if you've been with her, I only care about you. Jack. Chapter 19. Elizabeth had almost completely lost control. Not wanting to continue interacting with her, I tried to reason with her. Elizabeth, let it go. Live your own life, it'll be better for you. But I can't let go, Jack, I still love you, I can't let you go. Even when I was with Samuel, I was thinking about you. Even then, my mind was still on you. Jack, you started this. You can't just abandon me now. It's not fair. Elizabeth, you're seriously unwell, I sighed. Go home, and let's not see each other again. Don't bother Sophia either. If you keep crossing these boundaries, I'll have to call the police. Elizabeth's body stiffened. She let go of me, staring blankly with a bitter smile. Jack, you really are heartless. Not nearly as heartless as you, I replied. Fine. Very well, Elizabeth muttered, her eyes filling with tears, her lips trembling slightly. I heard that not long after I went abroad, you acquired my company. I'd like to take a look at my old place one last time. If you grant me this, I'll leave you alone after that. To be honest, I wasn't too keen on the idea. Her company had much of my effort poured into it. When it went public, I invested a lot of work, which is why I ended up acquiring it. I didn't want her lingering and seeing how it had grown under my management, but I decided that avoiding further hassle was worth agreeing. We set a date for next Friday, and I agreed. The week went by quickly, and at the appointed time, I waited for Elizabeth outside the company. She wore the suit I had bought for her 7 years ago. The outfit was neat, but the fabric looked noticeably worn. After all, it had been 7 years. The style was outdated, and the material wasn't as pristine as the newer options. Elizabeth gave a small smile and asked, "How do I look?" "You personally chose this for me back then, and I've kept it all this time." I avoided responding to her comment and turned toward the lobby. "Come in." Chapter 20. I gave Elizabeth a tour of the various departments of the company and told her about some of the partnerships I had secured since taking over. Elizabeth ran her hand along the leather chair in the office, sighing, "It's so different from what it used to be." "Yes, the company has grown stronger and more mature," I replied. "Jack, thank you for taking care of T.on.U. It was my creation, filled with my dedication. And it carries memories of us as well." I wasn't pleased with her choice of words. "Don't get it twisted. This is my company now. I'm not managing it on your behalf. Also, it's not called T.on.U. anymore." "Right, of course," Elizabeth smiled, going along with me. "Feelings don't lie. Jack, if you acquired T.on.U., it means you still care about me. You're overthinking it. I'm just a businessman." After the tour, as I was about to escort Elizabeth out, we ran into Sophia. "Elizabeth," Sophia greeted her and then said, "Shall we go?" "Go? Where to?" I asked, confused. "Aren't you taking Elizabeth out for dinner?" "She told me to wait for you two by the company entrance," Sophia replied. I glared at Elizabeth, who was smiling smugly as she walked over to link arms with Sophia. "Jack probably just got too busy and forgot to mention it." "Don't be mad at him, Sophia. The reservation's already made. Let's go." Chapter 21. At the restaurant, Elizabeth continuously filled Sophia's plate with food. "Elizabeth, don't just give me food, please eat too," Sophia said politely. "It's fine, Sophia. You eat up. Look at you, you're so thin." "Someone might think Jack's not treating you well," Elizabeth chuckled. Adding more food to my plate. "Jack, this is one of your favorites." "This dinner's on us," Elizabeth declared with a slight smile. "Sophia, I won't let you leave until you're full." Sophia seemed to catch the underlying meaning, nodded, and stayed silent. "Elizabeth, haven't you had enough of this game?" I couldn't hold back anymore, setting my chopsticks down as I questioned her. "Jack, why are you getting all worked up?" "You're scaring poor Sophia," Elizabeth scolded, then turned to Sophia. "Don't mind him, Sophia. Jack's always been impulsive, he was like this back then too." Sophia pursed her lips and asked, "Elizabeth, did you set this dinner up?" Didn't I just say it's on me and Jack together?" "With you, Elizabeth, leave." "Now," I snapped, unable to tolerate her any longer. I couldn't believe someone could stoop this low. Not wanting her there for another second, I gestured toward the door. Sophia tugged on my sleeve to calm me down, then turned to Elizabeth. "Elizabeth, you brought us here today, was there something specific you wanted to say?" "Well..." Elizabeth pretended to think it over. "There is something." "What is it?" "Sophia, do you remember me telling you about my ex-husband?" "Yes," Sophia replied, looking uncomfortable. "I want to get back together with him. What do you think?" "Well, that depends on both parties' willingness, I guess." Sophia looked down, disheartened. "Good, then," Elizabeth nodded, smiling in satisfaction. "Sophia, there's something I never told you. My ex-husband is actually Jack." "Yes, I know," Sophia replied. Chapter 22. Elizabeth was stunned by Sophia's response, her eyes wide as she stared at her. "You knew?" "Yes. I knew." "You actually knew?" Elizabeth was momentarily shocked, but then she burst into laughter. Then, catching us off guard, Elizabeth suddenly grabbed Sophia by the throat. "You little slut. You knew Jack was my ex-husband, so why couldn't you let him go? You're nothing but a homewrecker. You've bewitched Jack, making him so infatuated that he won't even spare me a glance. If only you were gone. Jack would come back to me." "Elizabeth, have you lost your mind?" I rushed forward, prying her fingers off Sophia and shielding her in my arms. Sophia rubbed her neck, coughing as her eyes reddened. "Elizabeth, I don't know what kind of past you had with Jack, but you're divorced. And he and I are building a new family. That means there's no chance for you and Jack anymore. Jack is mine. We're happy together, and I love him. Please stop meddling in our lives." No, I'm not the one clinging, Jack loves me. It's you who came between us. You destroyed our relationship and have the audacity to claim the moral high ground." Elizabeth had completely lost control. She looked at me, desperate, and pleaded. Jack, you love me, don't you? Leave Sophia. Let's be together, okay? Elizabeth, stop fooling yourself, I said, looking down at her coldly. You disgust me. No, this isn't right. If you didn't love me, why did you pursue me back then? If you didn't love me, why did you marry me? Jack, it's been 7 years, how can you say you don't love me anymore? How can you leave me? I need you so much. I let out a bitter laugh. Do you really not understand why I left? You cheated, you moved on. Isn't that easy enough to grasp? No, Jack, please listen to me, it wasn't like that. I never stopped loving you, I only ever loved you. I left Samuel to come back to you, didn't I? You think I don't know, I scoffed. Cameron told me everything. You left Samuel and came back because he found someone else while you were abroad. The two of you fell out, and he kicked you out, leaving you no choice but to return. Isn't that right? Yes, Samuel and I fell out, but my feelings for you are real. I don't believe it. 7 years of love can't just disappear, Jack. You still love me, right? You still care for me. I'm in your heart. Elizabeth reached out, trying to hold my hand, but I pulled away. Get lost. To me, Elizabeth died 7 years ago. No. Jack, you can't treat me like this. I'm Elizabeth. I'm your Elizabeth. Tears filled her eyes as she struggled with the mixture of love and hate, unable to let go but also unable to hold on. Chapter 23. The whole scene finally came to an end with the arrival of the police. Luckily, I had called them right after Elizabeth attacked Sophia. Otherwise, with Elizabeth in her unhinged state, I couldn't guess what else she might have done. On the way home, I asked Sophia, if you knew Elizabeth was my ex-wife and understood her character, why did you still come to the dinner? We got off lucky today, but what if we hadn't? I knew it probably wasn't going to be a pleasant dinner. But Elizabeth told me over the phone that if I didn't come, you'd end up having dinner with her alone. Seeing Sophia's dejected expression, all the anger in my heart melted away. I gently patted her head. How could that happen? If you hadn't come, I wouldn't have gone to dinner with her. But I was afraid. You know, when Elizabeth mentioned wanting to reconcile with you, I was really scared. I was afraid you might still have feelings for her. If that were true, I couldn't hold on to you. But at the same time, I didn't want to let go. As Sophia spoke, tears began to fall. I wiped her tears away. You looked so composed at the dinner table, I thought you had it all under control. What would you have done if I really agreed to get back together with Elizabeth? Would you have just let me go? What about the baby? What about yourself? I don't know. I still want to be with you, but I couldn't be that selfish. Silly, I held her close. We should talk about everything together from now on. Don't shoulder things on your own. Didn't you say that marriage is all about the little things, about being simple and honest? If we keep hiding things, how can we ever truly connect? Sophia sniffled, managing a smile. You're right. Chapter 24. After we got home, the police informed me that Elizabeth had been officially detained. Even in custody, she continued to act out, going so far as to curse at the officers. When she was released, they forced her to undergo a mental health evaluation, where she was diagnosed with severe depression and anxiety. Since that incident, I haven't seen any trace of Elizabeth. Cameron later mentioned that she had desperately tried to reconcile with Samuel, but he had only been with her for fun. Now that he was thriving abroad, there was no chance he'd take her back. With nowhere to go, Elizabeth spent some time in the harbor city. At the next class reunion, Elizabeth didn't attend. Eventually, she faded from everyone's memory. She was left behind, forgotten, as nothing more than a distant memory.